In Myrtle Beach, you always go at your own pace. Lie out on the sand, lie out by the pool, go boogie boarding, go surfing, walk the boardwalk, walk the marsh walk, golf at one of 90 golf courses, mini golf at one of 50 mini golf courses, fish off a pier, fish from a chartered boat, go shopping, get drinks, eat the freshest seafood. The list is exhaustive, but the experience isn't. You can go all out or do nothing at all. How you relax is up to you. There is so much to do and explore, whether you're traveling with friends, family, or just yourself. With 60 miles of beach, you're going to find your place. If this sounds like what you need, then this is where you belong.
Realtree has always had a connection to the fishing industry and the outdoor lifestyle. In 2016, Realtree expanded on the traditional business of creating the world's most effective camouflage patterns to create a fishing brand and family of patterns designed to connect the woods to the water and strengthen the bond between the two worlds. We couldn't be more excited to be working with the industry's top brands, retailers, and anglers to continue our growth, and we hope that you will join us. Enjoy Realtree fishing patterns inshore, offshore, on the lake, or at the dock. Learn more about the extensive line Realtree fishing patterns, apparel, gear, and more at Realtree.com.
Hey, do y'all like fishing for prizes? Maybe a trip to Costa Rica or a once-in-a-lifetime African safari? Well, the Grand Strand Fishing Rodeo is back. Thanks to the hard work of Visit Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and Trilogy Outdoors Media, this once popular event is back and is bigger and better than ever. This event is comprised of 12 monthly competitions that culminate in November with our annual banquet and expo, the celebration of fishing on the Grand Strand. New to this event is the freshwater division that will help include all of our anglers that live and visit the Grand Strand throughout the year. Monthly species winners will receive great prize packages from Bass Pro Shop and Surf Signs and Designs. But most importantly, they will receive an invite for them and a guest to our annual banquet and an entry in the grand prize drawing. So whether you fish the rivers, a pond, the pier, the surf, or a boat, you have a chance to win the grand prizes. To get signed up or for additional information, visit TrilogyOutdoorsMedia.com and click on event. Also, you can visit any of our weigh stations and registration stations to get signed up as well. Thanks to our wonderful sponsors, South Atlantic Bank, Surf Signs and Designs, Bass Pro Shops, Trilogy Outdoors Media, Visit Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and many more. Best of luck to everyone, and we'll see you at the scale.
Trilogy Outdoors.
All right, folks, welcome back to Trilogy Outdoors Podcast. We talk fins, fur, and feathers, and this week I'm joined by the two Steves. Steve Sr. and Steve Jr. are in the podcast studio here, and we're going to talk about anything that pops up. How about that? In particular, this weekend was I guess you call it the Myrtle Beach Boat Show. Gun show.
It was
the gun show. And it wasn't Steven walking around the neighborhood with a tank top on.
That's correct.
Thank goodness.
It was actually a true gun show. And
before we get into this, I want another title. I don't want to be Steve Sr.
No, you're what do we call what?
My granddaughter called me elderly this weekend, so I'm a little worried about that.
Oh dear Lord.
No, I don't want to.
I don't know. I thought we came up with I thought he was like the producer that we had come up with something. Remember, he was our Google guy. He had to Google it. He was going to sit in here and Google.
I just did that.
Mr. Producer.
Mr. Producer. Yeah, we'll make you the assistant producer.
Well, who's the producer? You.
I guess, because I got all this crazy computer stuff in front of me, which, by the way, this new computer it is incredible, but I've got some new pieces to the puzzle that I had to put together because Mr. Apple decided that he was going to do USB-Cs on all of his new laptops after 2018, and so I've got all kinds of little pieces attached here, so hopefully this thing's going to sound fine. But I'm super happy with this new computer, and I can keep up. And at the rate that your son is sending me people to send media packets to, I got to stay on top of the game.
So the gun show was fantastic.
It was.
It was a full convention center.
Yep.
I think they said over 500 tables.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and these are vendors and individuals. So I love that part of life. I love the place we live in.
I do too. Steven, I texted with Steven on Saturday or Friday and told him I was planning on going up there to look at maybe finding the kids at 22.
Yeah.
and told him I might peek around at some ARs, and he said, well, you need to talk to my dad. Well, of course, I didn't call you. I just went, and then I get a text from you Saturday afternoon or whenever, Sunday morning, call from you Sunday morning. I said, all right, I'm going. I wasn't going to go back. And I did, and I'm glad I did, because I got an education first and foremost, but I got something on the way. But I got an education, and for somebody that, I mean, I don't know what an AR is. I think an AR is a machine gun. I mean, I'm just that idiot. I mean, I know there's an explanation to where they came about, why they were created, and everything else. But I do know that a lot of my friends have them. They love shooting them.
Yeah.
I know you're one of those. I know I've had the pleasure of shooting quite a few of yours.
Yeah. Love them.
And so to have you kind of, well, I mean, you're going to do a lot of work on this gun, but to have you help me pick out all the pieces was fun. And I got it, like I said, I got an education, and this thing's going to look good. I may have a lot of people trying to buy it, including your son when he sees it.
Yes,
So you're one of these guys like our president that thinks that an AR is a semi-full auto, short-barreled pistol.
There you go. And I'm getting a bump stock. Yeah, I'm getting a bump stock too.
with horrible-looking pieces hanging off of it that are dangerous.
That's right.
Accessories.
Right.
But the AR is actually just a derivative of the M16 that was invented in the 60s and driven by Stoner and that group that were trying to find a lightweight battle rifle for our troops to replace the M14. Have you seen an M14?
No.
That's 12 pounds of wood and steel, and it's a cool gun. It is.
We saw a couple yesterday. You were looking at two. Were those the two wooden guns that were on that one table?
No, that's M1 carbines from
M1,
World War
that's
II.
right.
Yeah,
Right.
which are very lightweight, very nice gun. But no, the M14's a big, heavy battle rifle, the size of an M1 Garand from World War II. The gun that my dad carried, Stephen's granddad carried in World War II, and but it is more of that. It's a newer design with a rolling bolt, and just the M14 is a fantastic gun. But it was just it's 308, 7.62 by 51. You can't carry much ammo in the field, and it's a heavy gun, and so they were looking for a lightweight battle rifle, which had lightweight ammo, and they came up with that 5.56 cartridge, which is essentially 22 caliber, 223.
Right.
And so you can carry 200, 250 rounds of ammo on each man, and then you've got a battle rifle that weighs, 5 to 7 pounds, depending on how it's outfitted. And these newer ones, there are some that are even lighter than that, these shorter ones. So phenomenal platform that just basically stayed the same through the 60s, was used in Vietnam. Came out of the 70s. I remember starting in late 70s to alter them in some way and try to make them nicer, neater. So the AR-15 is the semi-automatic version. The M16 is the full auto Army version. Through the late 70s, early 80s, I was very prolific in turning out accessories and rails and whatever was starting to come into the market. But now it's just an amazing market. You can make them look like anything. They're always going to be the same core device. And the lower, if you saw a lower from 1960, the lower is the lower piece, that the gun, the serialized gun. Look, if you took that and laid it beside an M16 or an AR-15 from the 1960s, exactly the same.
Identical.
But everything around it has changed. Calibers. 204 Ruger, 204, that's a 20 caliber micro bullet traveling at 4,300 feet per second. Amazing speed, therefore a lot of kinetic energy at the other end, even though it's a tiny little pencil bullet, all the way up to 50 Beowulf and 458 SOCOM, and that's a bullet the size of your thumb, just the bullet, not the cartridge.
Right.
And with amazing knockdown power. So, and everything between 6.5 Grendel, 223, 5.56, 223 Wild barrels, 204s, 224 Valkyrie. That's a caliber that's very interesting, very fast, an excellent predator round, very straight, very flat. If you put it on at 500 yards, that's where it's going to hit, and that's good for coyotes. So they've turned it into a hunting platform,
Right.
and they've created an amazing platform that you can build anything around.
Well, you asked me if I was going to use it for hunting at all, or if I just wanted one for shooting. And I have visions of hopefully getting to do some hog hunting with it.
Yeah.
Hopefully, and I'm super excited to see the final product. Obviously, I think we have a gentleman who's doing a little bit of work for us on it now.
Yep.
And I'll get it this week while you're out of town, and so I'll get to look at it, and then you'll take over from there.
Yep.
And you're talking about the lower. You went through yesterday and picked out, I guess as at the gun show, obviously there's several different vendors there that were selling, not as many as you said in the past, but that sell all the pieces to the puzzle.
Right.
And you were going through lowers, and you were pointing at one. You said that should be $400.
Yeah.
And then what separates it? What's the difference?
Yeah, it's a either a forged or milled piece of aluminum.
Right.
And they're exactly the same if they're mill spec, right? So they're all exactly the same, and they have some laser engraving on the sides, and they have to have the exact same pin placement for the lower receiver parts, and they have to have the same cuts for the trigger and safety, and they have to have the same attachment points for the stock and the grip, and so on the lower. You would imagine, how would there be a lot of variation? But then there's quality, cut, trim. There's some that are more beefy. They are thicker, have a little heavier platform. And if you're shooting those big 450s, 458 calibers with a lot of recoil, a lot of kinetic energy, you want to get something a little beefier. The ones we saw yesterday are the typical Aero Precision and the typical Anderson Arms, which everybody in the business is familiar with. And then they had a Wilson laying there that I was very familiar with, and Wilson's a fine company, and the vendor, and I don't know why it was priced like it was. I saw that as an opportunity, and meant to buy it, and forgot when I got so deep into your gun. But I think we ended up with a great choice, which is a nice milled receiver that's going to be of high quality. It's got all the things that I was looking for. And now you're having it Cerakoted in your favorite color.
That's right.
Pink.
That's right. No, I didn't do pink.
Pink
I didn't do pink.
It has hearts on it. Pink
Yep.
hearts.
I didn't do pink, but I did get I do have my U.S. flag going on it, and I got Trilogy Outdoors getting engraved on it.
On one side, yeah.
And then we went with the AI. You remember the number?
AIFDE.
AIFDE green.
Yep. Well, it's more sand, but
yeah, more sand.
Yep. Which is a great color.
Yep. And I'm super excited. But yesterday walking through with you, you looked and grabbed a bunch of different things and started looking at guns, and you took me over to a friend of yours or someone that y'all dealt with there in the past that had a lot of antique guns, like I see in the cabinet behind you.
Well,
but he had a cool gun on the ground.
Bob Comer.
Can we talk about that? Is that?
Yeah, it's perfectly legal. So Bob Comer is a collector of most things Civil War, and he had his Sharps rifles out. He had his Smith carbines out. He had his swords from the Civil War, which were the Northern. There are hardly any Southern swords left on the market. They're in people's collections, and then he had a really interesting precursor. It's called a Fulmer gun. It's precursor to the Gatling gun. Now, most people have seen Tom Cruise's movie Last Samurai.
Oh yeah, at the end.
At the end, when these 6-barrel crank function. They may be 6-barrel, 8-barrel guns with a gravity-fed magazine on top. And the Fulmer gun was a precursor to that. Somebody else's idea. It was 5 flat barrels laying side by side, a big pivot mount and a big crank on the side of it. 5 magazines, gravity feeding each barrel, and as you turn the crank, it would just go down the barrels. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And as faster you crank, the faster it would shoot. It's obviously not as fast as that gun, but it had a naval mission. It was actually originally created for ships.
Oh wow!
And so that big bronze mount and all that was designed for a ship. It didn't take off, but that Fulmer gun, that's an $80,000 gun.
Yeah, I heard you mention something about 80.
That's what he was.
85,000.
I asked him how much, and he said 80,000, and I could not turn around fast enough and leave the area. A friend of mine in North Carolina was in. He's in the gun business. He was and very, very influential in the gun business. And he handed me a gun one day in his shop, and his shop is exactly like you would think, with the leather sofas in his office. Dark cabinets all the way around, all four walls, full of Holland & Holland and Krieghoffs and all the things you dream about with the if you're into side-by-sides and over-and-unders and high-end double rifles. And he had everything. And he handed me a gun and told me how he flew to Italy and had this Perazzi built for him and a 4-barrel Perazzi set and all this. And he said, I said, how much does a gun like this cost? And I was holding it at the moment. He said, about $125,000. And I was trying to hand it back so quickly and make sure that both of his hands were out and they were grasping it before I would. Had no interest in touching that. That's a lot of gun.
I saw some expensive guns, and as somebody who, I'll just say it, pawned a Browning gold trigger, Belgium made, 12 gauge. In 1990,
well, we've all done that now. We've all done that.
1994, I was about to throw up at the one table that the guy had all the old vintage Brownings. Yeah. Oh my God!
Yeah,
and that gun was in such good shape.
Yeah, they got leather presentation cases, and they're so pretty.
Yeah,
I love those. And I ask about every one of those. Over and unders, the Browning over and unders that are in those nice 1960s, 50s cases. How much for this? No, I can't afford that. How much for this? No, I can't afford that. And just move down the line, but it's fun to know, right?
Yeah, you sent me some great pictures of some watches after I left too.
Yeah.
I saw those price tags.
Yeah,
I'm good. I'm good. Hook and Gap's got me.
The Rolex guy was there. So with the AR-15's, you've got a standard 5.56 16-inch barrel on yours with an M-lock rail system running out to the end of the barrel, which allows you to put a hand grip. You've got your standard M4 profile barrel on it, which standard M4 profile means the profile of the current M4 carbine that the Army uses.
Right.
With a step-down reduction in it, and which makes it lighter.
Yeah.
And
when I showed up, he had already bought he had already picked up part of it and was waiting on me.
It was the only one in the building. If you imagine, out of 500 tables, there was one left. That was how many changes were occurring. That guy said he had sold 80 barrels yesterday. Was it yesterday? Saturday, trying to catch up with this new ATF ruling on the pistols, because you can just convert your. If you didn't buy it as a pistol, you can just take that upper off of it, put it in the gun safe, and put a 16-inch on there. You don't have to deal with the new ruling that the ATF's come down with on the pistols.
Wow.
So here's a question for the group. So does the AR platform go the direction of the dinosaur because of the Army's new movement in the direction of SIG?
Great question. I don't know. I don't have a clue what's going to happen, but I can tell you the industry follows the mil spec.
Sure.
Yeah. So that's. I mean,
new ammo too. I mean, 6.8 is the new caliber for the military.
6.8.
Yeah.
Yep. 6.8. I mean, same sort of profile as the 5.56, but 6.8. It's a new caliber, new gun. The new SIG is UM250, I think.
I don't know
what it's called, but it's a battle rifle. It's it's supposed to be a heck of a gun, and they're going to start supposed to put the first set of those UM250s in the hands of soldiers in 2024. So my unit might actually have them when we go. But then implementing, the whole thing over the course of the next 10 years. So in 10 years, there will be no more M4 platforms in the military in 10 years.
And I'm in favor of that. The 5.56 round, I think it had its time. It was innovative and considered the fact that you could carry that much ammo. I think I've never been in the military, so I can't say that battle has changed, but I can tell you that there's a lack of knockdown power. I'm sure the Army is concerned about that. Back in Vietnam, the reasoning was that if you got them carrying somebody off the field, that you put 3 people out of action instead of just the one you hit. So why kill them? Just wound them, and that's as much as I know about that subject. But
Interesting.
with the 5.56, if you put 3 people out of battle, you've accomplished more than you'd hoped for. But in this environment, we had a guy that came to go hog hunting with us. By the way, the hog hunting's been ruined for you by Stephen. He's killed them all.
No, I haven't.
But
He
the
killed 'em all.
that's such somewhat of an exaggeration. But so we had a guy that came to go hunting with us. I warned him to bring plenty of ammo, so he brought 2 magazines, 2 30-round magazines full. And he looked at me and I said, "You got your ammo?" And he said, "Yeah, right." And he held up the 2 mags. He was sitting in the back of my pickup truck, and I said,
Not enough.
"Not enough, not enough." He said, "That's 60 rounds, man. I mean, how many hogs are we gonna get?" And I looked at him. I said, "Okay." And so I grabbed 4 boxes out of a case, 5 boxes, 100 rounds, and threw them in the back of the truck beside him on the ground, and said, "Just make sure you got these beside you." And then we rode around. We ran into a group of about 10 that were standing in the middle of the pasture. We got downwind of them, snuck in on them, and walked right up to them abreast. There were 4 of us abreast. And he shot his first magazine at 1 hog.
Yeah.
And he put 8 or 10 rounds in that hog out of the 30. And it was still running hard as it go when
Wow.
it hit the woods. So
Wow.
that's kind of where you are with that round. I mean, a hog is a really tough animal though now. And this guy was not experienced at it. So there's a lot of running and a lot of missing. There's a lot of dirt flying. At the same time, that's my opinion of that round. Our friend Mike Cannon, friend of the show, shoots a 450, and that 450 Bushmaster, again about the size of your thumb, 1. It only takes 1. There's a lot of energy in that bullet. So we let
That's
Mike.
not what you hunt with, is it, out there? You hunt with something 5-something, right? What do you hunt with in Africa?
375.
375, that's right.
So 450 is bigger in diameter, but it's more like a pistol cartridge, and it's a gigantic round. Anyway, so we put Mike on the far right because most of the time we'll come in downwind, they'll go right, and so that hog that had 8 or 10 in it, Mike puts it down
With 1 shot.
1 shot. And if you
Wow.
catch it in the belly, then it's everything in its torso is dragging on the ground. If you catch it in the rear end, it can't go anywhere. The bones are splintered. You catch it in the front, it's down on its haunches trying to push, and you catch it in the head, it's dead. So with that gun, but the point of this was starting out with the 5.56 round, in my opinion, is not. And so when they've come out with they've got 6.5 Grendel, they've come out with 6.8 special, and I think they're doing a lot of the new rounds that are going to be a lot more. But this platform for the Army, I mean, obviously they know what they're doing.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. There's no pictures of it. I can't find any pictures of it. I might be putting it in wrong.
Yeah.
But I did have a question that I wanted to ask you about today, both of you. I'd never heard this round of ammo, and yesterday, a little group that I'm in, it was up for a waffle, as we call it, and it is the 5.7 by 28. Okay.
5.7 by 28. Okay.
Yeah, 5.7 by 28 millimeter.
Yeah, that's the FN round that was made originally for the P90. And so then they made that FN 557 pistol.
That's it. Yeah.
And it's a tiny little round, about that long, about 1.5 inches long, and very, very fast. And they had a problem with it at the very beginning. The round that FM designed with a ballistic tip on the front end was defeating body armor. The normal round that they were selling over the counter. And it was so fast, it was defeating body armor. So
wow,
they made a change in the design of the bullet, and then they outlawed all of those from being sold, those types of rounds. But they still have the 5.7 by 28. It's a great round. It's just very expensive to shoot. It's a wonderful pistol because I think it holds 22 or 25 rounds, some tremendous number of rounds.
Yeah, this was 20 plus 1.
Yeah, so I've got friends that have them. I've never bought one. I just never had any interest. I still have a lot of ammo from a P90 I had. The P90 is the assault weapon for that round.
Right.
Top loading 50 round magazine that sits from flat parallel to the barrel. An excellent platform. I just couldn't.
It's a really cool looking gun.
Yeah, but it's one of those space gun things that has no. I mean, if as guns go, it has no purpose. It has no. For me, it has no hunting purpose.
Right. When I read about it military wise, it was for short range encounters. I guess where the military was using it in like
SWAT
small
settings.
compounds. Yeah, small.
Room entry type things, but it's got too much penetration to do that. And they found that quickly. It's going to go through the sheetrock, and it's going to go through everything. So I don't know anybody that's adopted it. Do you, Steve? I don't know anybody that's adopted that round.
I don't either. I was actually just looking at we were talking about the energy differences between the two, and I was sort of curious when you mentioned the 375. The 375, but at muzzle velocity, the energy is 4,900 feet per 4,900 foot-pounds of energy in the 375 Ruger. Okay.
Wow.
The 450 Beowulf, 2,500 foot-pounds of energy.
Wow.
At the muzzle. Any idea what the 5.56 is? 5.56. Now this is at yardage, but because I couldn't find it quick enough. But at yardage, 296 foot-pounds.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the 450 Beowulf is 10 times what the 5.56 is, and the 375 Ruger is twice what the 450 Beowulf is.
All right, now let's clarify this for any listeners out there that are as gun illiterate as I am. Does NATO allow you to use those other rounds, or do they have to use? Isn't there a limit on? And I might be wrong. Isn't there something that states what rounds y'all can use in the military?
Yeah, well,
You're issued.
you're talking about, well, yeah, there's that. There's what we're issued,
Right.
okay? And then there's what you can
Use.
There's that too. But then there's what you can and can't use according to the Hague or according to military law.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean but no, the answer is if I am issued a 50 caliber to shoot at somebody as a sniper, I can shoot.
You can modify the bullet any way you want to.
I can shoot somebody from a mile away with a 50 caliber. Yeah, if I want to shoot them.
Right.
But you don't modify stuff, right? Because you want accuracy and dependability. And so you've got issued ammo, and that issued ammo is normally tied to your scope, and you've got the dope work on that scope, and you know exactly what that bullet with that load is going to do. And you've worked with that bullet, that load, and so there's not a lot of variation. You don't. That's the opposite of what you want.
Right.
Now with the armies, I mean, I don't think there's a drive with overseas armies to do that. What they do is take what we give them as surplus. So I mean, they're going to take M16s and or M4s, and they're going to take 5.56 ammo that's issued, and then if you're doing Soviet bloc stuff, they're going to take some version of the AK-47 and 7.62 with 39 Russian stuff, which is everywhere. Yeah. And that's, I mean, they're looking at cost, expense, maintenance, and continuity. Right. They're not looking at hybrid calibers. They're nobody.
I'm still sort of interested, conflicted about the new round. I mean, I agree. 5.56 it should sort of go the way of the dinosaur. As we were talking about with hog hunting a little while ago. I mean, if I find out we've got pigs in a trap or we've got pigs coming to corn regularly, the last gun I grab is a 5.56, right? I mean, unless you can shoot him right in the ear hole, it's just not the appropriate round for a pig. So, I've always thought, 7.62 is a good round, but as you said, it's heavy. But the problem is if you run into somebody on the battlefield, military-wise, you run into somebody on the battlefield or you kill somebody on the battlefield, 9 times out of 10 where we are in battle, 9 times out of 10 it's going to be somebody that is shooting a 7.62 and into the foreseeable future too. So you need to be I mean, just in my personal, this is not Stephen Goldfinch as a military member or politician, just in my personal opinion, you need cross-trained on 7.62 stuff platforms like the AK or like the FNs or like HKs that all shoot 7.62 that our enemies are all shooting. And at some point in time, you're going to have to grab a magazine.
Grab a magazine. That's I knew that's where you were going.
Or grab a box or whatever, or an ammo can that's going to be full of 7.62. And here we are shooting another weird round, 6.5, that is not compatible. So I don't know. I've always sort of been interested in the military's position on, taking these weird rounds. 5.56 was a really weird round 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah. Oh, and no support. Everybody hated it.
Right, no support.
This is a BB. This is not going to work.
40 years ago, and now, here we are, because the military adopted it, here we are with 100 million rounds of it. Circulating amongst the three of us.
That's probably in South Carolina.
Amongst the three of you.
Yeah, just in South Carolina probably. And all of a sudden it's about to go the way of the dinosaur again to another weird round, which supposedly has better ballistics. I could look that up too. It supposedly has better ballistics, but again, the world is full of 7.62.
Yeah.
And it just seems to me like, why aren't we having this discussion? I mean, maybe we are.
So getting into the 7.62 and the AKs, am I right?
Two different guns. Now we got 7.62 51. That's a 308 cartridge, which is the NATO 308. That's the G3 battle rifle from HK.
Yeah.
That's the M14, and that's the sniper rifle that is very common amongst our troops. The Remington 700 Bolt is the 308 or 7.62 by 51. Then the AK is the 7.62 by 39. Which is a smaller bullet made for semi-automatic fire. And
did I shoot one of your Remington 700s? Do you have a Remington 700?
Yeah.
And the bullet was subsonic, or
that's Stevens' gun.
That's Stevens' gun.
Got a big can on the end.
It's got a big AWC Thunder Trap on the end, and it's just like a air gun.
Yep.
I mean, it's just quiet.
It's quiet.
Super quiet.
That's the hog gun, man. You can sit in a tree stand and shoot 4 or 5 of them before they figure out.
There you go. What in the world? Where's everybody going?
Yeah.
What you laying down over there for?
Why are you laying down?
Why are you laying down, George?
Oh, I love that gun.
So help me out with ARs versus the AKs, and I think Kenny's gun is his is an AR. He wants to get an AK. What's the am I saying it right? Kalashnikov.
Yeah,
that's it. That's the designer.
So
1950s.
Is there an action difference? Is it design?
Completely different.
Okay.
Stamped metal, cheap parts, rattle trap is what I call them, and they fired and they're dependable, and they'll run in the mud, and they're just always there. Fairly accurate, really good bullet. It's a big bullet. You're looking at 55 grains for the 5.56, and you're looking at anywhere from 120 to 150 grains for
Good Lord.
So it's a lot different. It's more of a hunting round. It is more of a killing round. Got a lot of kinetic energy, very, very powerful. They're all steel, rarely do you see brass, so it's a steel case, which is cheaper to produce rather than brass, and a steel cased or is certainly a penetrator round in the bullet itself. So the rounds are dangerous. I mean, they're armor piercing to an extent, and that ammo is all over the world. Chinese,
everywhere,
Russian.
So that's what we were up against in Iraq, Afghanistan.
Everywhere. Everywhere. Yeah.
It's the same gun. The gun is just a rattle trap, but it works, and it's it has none of the precision. And there's nothing in there holding these parts close together like they are in this precision milled AR-15 frame, and it's amazing that it works, but it does. And they've designed every bit of this to be inside that loose compartment, just working on its own. And so, what a great idea! It just goes to show the intelligence of those designers at Kalashnikovs. But at the same time, now there are lots of platforms. I have an AR-15 that fires 7.62 by 39.
Right.
It's the same mag. It's the same.
Yeah.
All it did was change out the barrel system and the bolt. So,
which begs another question. Like, why didn't we go in that direction? If you like the M4 platform so much, why not go in the direction of just changing? Everybody, just about everybody has gotten in this, has gotten on this bandwagon of switching out the M4 platform or the AR-15 platform with different calibers that are better. Just like what we do for hog hunting. We've got between all of us, we've got 100 different AR-15s, maybe 10 of them are 5.56. The rest of them are 300 blackout, or like you just said, 7.62, which is a really weird AR-15, or 450 Beowulf like Mike has. I mean, people plug and play on these AR platforms all the time. Why didn't the military just do that? Why didn't, if the military was so
There's an answer.
dead set on a better caliber, why didn't the military do that?
There's an answer, and that they want a different platform and a different ammo on the battlefield, so you can't pick it up and use it against them.
No, I got you.
So
and SIG
HK came up with that concept. HK came up with that concept. They created the G3 battle rifle.
Yeah.
The G3 battle rifle has an octagonal chamber. So you look in any of the chambers of any of the guns you got, including your shotguns, they're perfectly smooth round, right?
Right.
Bullet goes in. The HK created that octagonal chamber. It is, 8-sided, 5-sided, 8-sided.
Yeah.
And when that cartridge comes out of that gun, it is not usable again. And it's 7.62 by 51, so it's a 308. And you're looking, but when the brass comes out, it looks like that.
it's pressed.
It goes on the ground.
Yeah.
And if you look at the pictures from Central Africa and all the African nations, any 308 cartridge that hits the ground, they have 8-year-old kids running behind the battlefield picking them up. And they go sit on a 10 by 10 concrete. There'll be 20 kids sitting on this piece
Reloading.
and they are taking a nail and knocking the primer out, and then they're taking a piece of wood and putting the primer back in with a hammer, and then they're taking they're putting powder in it, and they're putting another bullet in it and seating it with a hammer, and they're reloading. And so HK created that concept: is you're not going to use that piece of brass against us again. Interesting.
Wow.
So I think there's some of that thought process with the military. They don't want you to be able to run by a soldier and pick up his mag and his ammo, or just his mags, and stick them in your gun. Now, whether or not that's, I have no experience in whether or not that's viable or even a rational thought process, but apparently it's big in their thought process.
I suppose. And the SIG is a great, I'm a huge fan of SIG. So, I like all of their stuff. And I think it's going to be a great rifle. Anything SIG builds usually is a good product. But, it's got to be, I would think, twice as expensive, 3 times as expensive.
Yeah, no doubt. Complex.
And complex.
Gas system.
A lot harder to clean.
Yep.
The M4 platform, somebody that is good at it could disassemble and reassemble the thing in less than a minute.
Yeah.
And clean it. And the SIG's not going to be that easy. Like I said, it's a great product, but not going to be that easy. It's like comparing the Benelli shotgun to the Beretta shotgun. The Benelli's a great shooting shotgun, super simple, 3 pieces to clean it. For the most part, unless you really want to get complex, 3 pieces to clean the thing. You can take it apart, put it back together in a matter of a minute. Okay, well, let's step up to the Beretta. Well, the Beretta Extrema, also a fantastic shotgun, but you got to have a mechanical engineering degree to take the thing apart and put it back together. No joke, gun in a box sort of situation,
Yeah,
right?
gun in a bag. That's what we used to call it.
Gun in a box or gun in a bag.
Here comes a gun in a bag and coming in the front door.
When you take a Beretta Extrema apart, like seriously to clean it, you got to put it back in a bag and you take it to the gun shop to put it back together. Yeah. So you get in this situation where you never clean the thing, right? That's the bottom line. You don't end up cleaning it. You do a rub down on it at the end of every duck hunt, and you hope that by the end of the year the gun's good enough, operational enough, and then you take it to the gun shop to get them to clean it.
Yeah, I clean it by opening the bolt and squirting a bunch of oil down in there everywhere, and then just cycle it a couple times and wipe off whatever comes out.
Whatever falls out, I do
good.
that too.
Right, and is that going to be the case with the new SIG? And the armorers are all going to have to clean these guns, and nobody else is going to be able to clean.
What a mess! So we somehow we got away from the lower.
Yeah.
And just drift.
Imagine that.
Yeah. So the lower, your lower's coming in. It's going to be Cerakoted. It's going to have all the colors. It's going to match everything, including the rail. You got an M4 lock. An M lock rail on top of your barrel, which runs all the way out the end. You can put lasers on the side of it. You can put flashlights on it. You can put additional sighting systems on the front end. That's sitting over the barrel, not over the receiver.
Right.
You can put a grip underneath the bottom to give you that better hold, and then you've got a 6-position stock coming out the back end. You're going to have that Cerakoted the same color, your sand color, or AIFDE. And then you're going to have a grip that matches. And then you're going to have your engraving. and your engraving is going to be colored, so it sets apart, and your flag is going to be colored, I hope.
Yeah.
And then we're going to put I've got 2 triggers. I looked last night. I've got 2 trigger set systems at the house, and for the lower parts kit, and one's a Geisley super SSA, which is about a 2.5 pound pull, and for me, not for the military, 7
Right.
pounds for them, but for me, I really prefer 2.5, 3 pounds. It makes you very accurate and makes the gun real easy.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. And
But Timony makes a wonderful trigger, and I've got both of those, and we'll actually probably put them both in and try them before we decide. So I'm looking forward to building that with you.
the importance in the pounds of pressure that Mr. Steve was talking about is, and I'm just going to say, because I have adjusted mine on my Remington Model 700 that I had, a hunting rifle. I kicked it down to, like, I think it was 3 pounds of pressure, may have been as low as I got it. But it makes a big difference when you go to squeeze that trigger on a target, and it's just second nature. You really shouldn't even feel yourself pull it. I mean, that's the way I feel mentally when I go to pull the trigger on mine. I don't even want to think about it. Like I'm trying to concentrate on, aiming. And when I go to pull the trigger, I just want my finger just to, as easy as I can, smoothly as I can, touch it, because I do know from shooting guns that do take a little more trigger pull, a little more strength, that it tends to pull you off target a lot.
Yep. And did you know that there's a new trigger pull, so I've been through the Weaver stance and the crouch stance and all the stances, and now there's a new system they're teaching with the trigger pull, which is you lay your hand out all the way out. So I normally come to the pad of my trigger finger, the middle of the pad, on the first joint to pull the trigger, and to try to make sure that comes straight back rather than pulling left, pulling right, and spend a lot of time doing that. And now they're teaching you to run that finger all the way out to the trigger, no matter where it comes in, and then the base of your finger, the first joint,
Will be what
is going
makes
to
contact.
keep you from moving left and right. And wherever your finger comes in, which is invariably with me is in the second joint, that middle joint, invariably that's where it's going to hit the trigger, and that is a weird feeling not to have it on the pad of my first joint. So that sounds technical, I guess.
It is technical, but that's
It
okay.
is.
That's
It
what we
is-
wanted.
It is a new teaching method, and they're teaching this ATF, Secret Service. Everybody's teaching this. So you're going to hit your trigger about right there, right in the middle of your second or middle joint of your trigger finger. And it feels weird, but it does keep you from moving that gun around, especially with pistols.
Because you don't have the leverage that you do all the way out at the end.
Otherwise, you've got a crook that's not touching, and you can do this or you can do this. Depending on what your finger's accustomed to doing.
If you don't have the leverage, then it's easier to pull. It's harder to pull, and therefore it's slower to pull.
Yeah.
Right.
So right, and so we're going to try a Timony at about 2.5 pounds. We're going to try that SSA at about 3 pounds probably, and they're both adjustable, and they have field adjustables with a real micro hex wrenches.
All right, while you're gone on your trip,
Yeah.
what do I need to go look for? What do you suggest me for getting for a sight? I think we talked a little bit about it, but what should I get for optics?
That's sitting at the house. We got it ready.
Oh, really?
On your AR.
Yeah. You can't hunt hogs without an open sight. You can't hunt hogs
Right.
through a scope, and I'm not going to let you mess that up.
Okay.
So you're not going shopping for that.
Okay. That's why I brought you on board.
Yeah, well, no,
That's
I'm
why I brought you
being
on board.
over assumptive in this, but there's only one, an EOTech open sight, reflex type sight where you can see that hog out of your left eye, and you can see him running in your right eye. Otherwise, you are wasting your time trying to look through a tube at them because you just can't find them, and they are running for their lives.
Yeah.
And they know how to do that.
Reactive reticles are the way to go anymore.
Yeah, so it's a great round. And it'll match. Fortunately, they make the coyote sand and the brown.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
well, one other question. So, I bought the 22 for the kids and for Daddy, too, to shoot. But I'm not going to lie. So the reason I got such a good deal on it is they had sent it with a rail system on top instead of the iron sights. It didn't come with the iron sights.
Yep.
So I'm got to put optics on it. What do I put on there for the kids? Just for shooting targets and everything else. Should I go with a red dot or should I go with?
If your children, there's two of them going to be shooting it, and are you cross-eye dominant? Do you know what that means?
I am.
Do you look at it your right eye naturally?
Right.
Okay.
I'm right eye. Because,
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and you're right-handed.
Mhm.
And your son is right-eye.
Right-handed.
Do you
He's
know? if
trying
he's
to be
right-eyed?
left-handed, but I'm not letting him.
You
He's
know if
trying. He picks every gun up and pulls it up
Uh-oh.
here. I'm like, nope, let's go to the other side.
Well, he might be left eye dominant then.
You're right, and that's what I'm worried about.
So Trip, Stephen's son is left eye dominant, and so he shoots a reflex. A red dot is what you're calling it.
Right.
Nothing in a tube. They're not going to be able to use it.
No, that's what I was thinking.
True Glow reflex, $69 at Bass Pro Shop
Okay.
or the gun shop, and that's all you need.
Okay. Perfect.
The problem with it is it has batteries.
Yep.
And you'll leave it
And
on.
if you'll leave it on, trust
leave it
me.
on. So just buy 6 or 8 batteries when you start. They make them at Tractor Supply in a 25 packs for $9.
Yeah, they're the little,
2032s.
yeah, the crazy looking battery.
Flat.
Button batteries. Yeah.
Yep.
So buy a bunch of those and be ready, but it's well worth it. I mean, you could go more expensive with a Holosun that is solar activated and cuts off after 2 hours, $250.
Yeah.
So that's an option.
That's
for
what
that.
you have.
I've got EOTechs. I've got loopholes. I've got
What was that on your pistol
loophole.
that you're taking with you?
That's the new loophole.
Oh, it is? Oh, yeah, that thing's pretty.
The reactor.
I mean, that's way out my price range, but I like it. I think I was telling you, I love your pistol. That thing.
Yeah, I was so worried about that. That sight is supposed to be. I mean, it's motion activated. Everything. You ain't got to worry about it. It
Nice.
is the sight.
And it is super, super accurate.
Yeah. So I love that.
That's going to be fun.
Yeah. But
I'm laughing because I'm thinking. I look over here at the computer screen, literally thinking it's been 25 minutes. Y'all, it's 45 minutes. I'm like, this has been. I'm enjoying talking about guns. I mean, of course, sitting with the two of y'all who are.
All right. Well, I want to talk about guns for another minute, and then I want to switch topics. So
Okay.
here, I want to bring up a topic. So one of the things we've talked a lot about shooting for shooting's sake. Let's talk about what guns are appropriate for what critters, okay? Because we've had this debate a couple of times, but we haven't had Steve Sr.'s perspective on this. So,
Mr. Producer.
Mr. Producer,
Mr. Producer.
Mr. Producer. So let's start with deer. All right, the most appropriate. And let me give some parameters here.
6.5 Creedmoor.
Wait a minute.
I'll
Are
give
we talking about AR?
No.
Any caliber.
Any
Okay.
caliber.
All right.
And the parameters, the things to consider when talking about this would be availability of ammo,
Yep.
cost of ammo, appropriateness. Is that a right word? Is that a word? Appropriateness?
Yeah.
Appropriateness of the caliber for the species. In
Would
other
that
words,
be an ethical thing?
yeah, so
Right.
that needs to be ethical, right? Distance that you're likely to encounter the animal. All of those things need to come into play. So in other words, you may say, well, the best solution is to shoot everything with a 50 caliber. Okay, well, that's true, but maybe that's true, but you got meat loss on small critters. You're not necessarily going to be shooting them at a mile away, and they're $10 a round. So you can't go. I mean, match the ammo to the critter.
Mm-hmm.
Start with white-tailed deer. Go.
308.
270.
308's got every single caliber. I mean, every single bullet size, combination load. They've got, you can subsonic, and I shoot subsonic
Right.
100% of the time. Why would I want to shoot a deer at 300 yards anyway? 125 in, nobody even knows I shot the deer, including the deer. And I've had does stand around and look at a dead doe on the corn pile for 5 minutes trying to figure out what just happened. So,
And cheap.
subsonic, cheap, available,
Yeah.
perfectly capable at 600 yards, perfect, for supersonic, perfectly capable with subsonic, quiet. You can buy it at any gun store, and any variation, any load. I mean, I cannot imagine anything better than that.
That's
308.
what I figured 308.
All right, that's
I'm stuck with a 270. That's why I said 270. But
why do you say 270?
that's what I have. It's what I've always shot, and I don't have any trouble finding ammo. It's normally fairly priced.
Yeah.
I have had very few deer run off for any extended distances, but I have also never shot a deer inside of 200. Maybe 225 would be the stretch, but
Inside?
I've never shot a deer outside.
Outside,
I'm sorry,
okay.
outside. Probably 225. And I've never had one go really far. Now this is the first time I've ever had decent optics. When I bought my new scope is Trijicon, and I've got the higher end Trijicon, but I've never had anything get too far away. But I will say this year with that same gun, I missed 2 coyotes at about 280 yards to 300 yards. Yeah. Missed them plain as day, both of them. And I felt like the sight was in, the scope was on. I know it was on. I shot it. I think I sent you a picture of it after I shot the target, or checking it. But
Did you check it at 300?
I checked it at 100.
Okay. Well, there's a big difference, right? It's dropping 4 inches.
It's dropping.
So you shot right between his legs.
Yeah, 270.
Where were you shooting? Chest?
I was shooting. No, I actually aimed. All right, so here's the deal. Both of them came down the edge of a corn. They were coming right behind each other, walking down the edge of a corn, a little bit of a cornfield in an area that Lucas had mowed down in the center. Yeah. And on the first one, I knew it was over 200 yards and felt like it was longer. So when I put the gun up, when I got it in sight on that Trijicon, I took it about that high over the shoulder, is what I thought I was.
Over the back? Or
over the back,
shoulder?
like right here, over the back.
Right.
And pulled the trigger and jumped up a mile high in the air and took off, and the other one just kind of sat there for a minute, walked up. So I loaded, got another one in, and then I went back a little bit in it. I didn't try to go for up here. I just tried to hit the damn thing, and went back a little bit, and I don't think I raised it up any higher. Yeah. But you're saying 4 inches at it drops 4 inches at how far?
Well, first of all, it depends on your bullet weight.
I'm shooting 147s,
152s,
147s, the 140 grain.
I bet you shot over his back. Honestly, you said you aimed over his back.
Yeah.
Yeah, at 300 yards, I bet you shot over his back.
And at 100 yards, I am a 1/4 inch high on the target. Is where I try to get it.
I think you're at like 3 to 4 inch drop at 300 yards. So I would guess if you aimed over his back, you probably skinned his back.
I disagree. You shot between his legs.
Well, if you jerked, you might have shot between his legs.
There's no telling. I could have shot the tree to the left of him.
Yeah, I don't believe you shot over.
But I wouldn't. I mean, on a coyote.
But who's to know what setting your scope was on? When you say I shot a little over his back, I mean, you could have been 1.5 feet over his back at 300 yards.
You're right.
Right.
So you're right.
So a little bit means a lot.
Makes a big difference.
So were you on a stand? Were you racing on a stand?
I was in a stand, braced. Yes. Okay.
So the Nosler partition or the Nosler ballistic tip that's zeroed at 100 yards, which is what yours was.
I was 1/4 inch high.
Okay. Well, let's call it zero.
Call it zeroed.
Nosler partition or ballistic tip for 270, zeroed at 100 yards, will drop 3 inches at 300 yards.
So still should have hit it. No, I might have been over.
So if you aimed over his back.
But like Steve said.
I mean, I don't know where you aimed.
Like you said, I might have been higher.
I thought you were going to say you shot a little bit above his shoulder, and I was thinking you should have hit him.
You're aiming in clear blue sky over his back.
I pulled that beautiful lit up crosshair over the top of him.
Yeah,
I did. I got on him.
Yeah.
And then I went, pulled it up.
I hate to admit it. I think Steven's right.
You shot over.
Shot over him.
Yeah, if you're aiming at horizon over his back at 300 yards with a 270, I think you shot over him.
But that's not in my opinion, 270 is not a 300-400 yard gun.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It's a short.
It's a 200-yard gun. I mean, we grew up with 270s, both of us, and loved that round. Nothing wrong with it, but it's just a 200-yard round in my opinion. Now, that doesn't mean you can't shoot something at 500 with it. I mean, you got to know the dope on your scope.
Yeah, my father-in-law's a 308 man. He said, like, even when I bought this newer rifle. He said 308. Go with 308. Don't do the 270. Go with the 308.
Here's the rule of thumb for all, unless you're doing something super weird, which is like shooting at a 30-degree angle at 600 yards, which you should never do. If you're doing anything within the normal parameters of what we do around here, high shoulder is just about always the right shot. It does. I mean, if you got to say rule of thumb, I don't know how far that deer is, but I know it's not a mile out there. I can shoot it with this caliber.
Yeah.
High shoulder is always the right answer. Always. Don't aim over his back. Don't aim under his belly, because don't do any of those weird things. High shoulder.
I always aim at the animal too. I'm looking at fur when I shoot.
High shoulder is the way to
But
go.
I thought you were getting ready to say above his shoulder, and that's down there at the bottom of the body.
Right.
So I thought you had plenty of animal above it.
Yeah, they were both really big coyotes.
But the one that jumped, that's a little surprising.
Oh yeah, jumped a mile high. And the next day,
Sure you didn't get him?
nope, no blood, no nothing. They went the next day to look.
And the other one waited on you.
We
to
tried.
shoot him
Yeah,
again.
the other one just kind of walked up a little bit and was like, and just stopped and turned. I mean, just sat there perfectly.
Oh my gosh.
Didn't move at all. Oh yeah, I mean, terrible. All the turkeys, and it was so awesome because there was like the 30 turkeys in the field had all gotten. I noticed they got bunched up like this. They were, I mean, just in a little circle, and they quit. They were making no noise,
Oh, I bet.
and they were just sitting there. And then off in the distance, I see them. Here they come. They start, and I'm like, oh, I see why they were shut up.
And those turkeys are fixing their wings, getting ready.
They were gone. As soon as I shot the first shot, they all took off.
So we hadn't heard Steven's caliber, have we?
Nope.
For deer,
Yeah.
Yep.
whitetail.
359.
No, I mean I do shoot deer. I do shoot 375 because that's what that's the gun I grab. But that's not. I mean, that's not realistic, right? If I had to say, if I had a wide range of calibers at my disposal and a wide range of ammo at my disposal, honestly, I think I'd say 243 for whitetail. Now 308's not. 308 would be. I don't want to be the same, so I'm going to take a different.
Sure.
I'm going to take a different one, and I'm going to say 243. I think there's a lot of overkill in whitetail hunting, and if you shoot well, 243 is a great flat shooting gun.
Yeah.
And has plenty of knockdown power to kill it. It's not a super expensive round. Kids can shoot it, so if you got
Perfect for kids.
in my world right now, I always have a kid in my lap when I'm sitting in the deer stand. A kid can shoot a 243, and a 243 can kill any deer.
Yeah.
So I'm
That's
going.
right.
I'm going 243.
And also you have a lot of confidence in your ability to hit your target.
Well, I try.
You do. I mean, that would be the big thing. I mean, 30-06 is overkill, isn't it? And that was.
Yeah, and I bet you there's 100,000 30-06s in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina that came from up north
Yep.
for sale. They're 1970 model Winchester 70s or Remingtons, and they're all 30-06s with a red field square view, or what was that, wide view scope? Remember the old red field wide view scope? And they're everywhere. You can buy them in Myrtle Beach for $300 every day. People getting rid of them. But the 30-06 is proven round, man. My dad carried that all the way across Europe.
Yep.
It's a good round, but it is overkill, I think.
And what's the other 7mm mag or 7?
Yeah.
Well, you got Win Mag, you got
7 Win mag. That's a
7 mag.
real big one.
Seven mag. You got a 300 Win mag. You got. I mean, people around here shoot 300 Win mags all the time at deer, and I'm like, holy crap!
Don't want it to walk off. Don't want it to walk off.
Well, I
want
shoot
it
a
to stop right where it is.
I mean, I shoot a 375, so I can't like. But I mean, but that's the gun. Like that's the gun I always pick up, right? I mean, so maybe I'm crazy, but I would not go buy a 300 Win mag or a 7mm for the purpose of hunting whitetail. Now, if you got a 300 Win mag for the purpose of hunting elk, and that's the only gun you shoot because you want to shoot everything, you want to get good at it, you want to make sure you shoot, the coyote, you shoot the pig, you shoot the deer, and you shoot the elk with it, I got it. But if you go buy a 300 Win mag for the purpose of shooting whitetail, I think that's a little crazy.
Yeah, our buddy Jay Bay, the other thing, he shoots a 270 short.
Yeah, there's a short action.
Yeah.
Mag.
Yeah,
Yes.
270 short
270.
mag.
Yeah.
Good looking bullet. Really good looking bullet.
Yeah, fat.
What do they
That
call in the new? There's a new short action. What do they call in the new short action? There's a God, I got to look that up. PRG, PNG.
I'm getting old. I'm losing track of all the new calibers coming out.
I know it's hard to come up, but I mean I had a 300 short action ultra mag for a while, and that was a great flat shooting gun. Rick actually bought that gun from me. He still shoots it.
300 short mag.
Yep, 300 short mag, Remington 300
All right,
short mag.
for the layman. Short being the shorter casing, obviously.
No, it's a short action.
Okay.
You got short action, long action.
All right.
30-06 is long action, so it's not necessarily any shorter of a casing.
Okay.
It's either you use it in a short action rifle or a long action rifle.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And that's just the bolt travel distance, right? So and that gun, what it gives you is a magnum load in a short action bolt rifle.
And I bought Russ and Kinsley back in December had a opportunity to buy a deer rifle that they'll be able to grow into. It's the it's just the Mossberg Patriot, but it's the youth grow and go.
Sure.
3 different stocks
Yeah.
in the 6.5. And
Brindle?
it's a Creedmoor.
Creedmoor, cool.
But I did do the inspection on it, and 243 is what he had said to get.
Yeah.
And when doing the research, it looked like the 6.5 is not that much bigger, and more or less worried about the kick for the kid.
Yeah, the 243 is the same 6 millimeters.
Right.
It's in the same category.
So, but still hadn't got either one of them to shoot it yet. But it's owned. It's pretty owned.
It's a good gun. It's a great round. I think it'll be around a long time. That's what as we buy these new calibers, you have to also think about can you buy the ammo?
Can you buy the ammo?
20 years from now when they're adults.
Right.
And that's going to be important too. But I think we might all be reloading 20 years from now. I just don't know where that's going. I hope not.
Because you think ammo manufacturers are going out of business, or what?
I don't know. I see a lot of people moving towards reloading as they worry about the state of our. And I think we're 40 years ahead of Europe in that. And I don't know if we'll ever get there, but I know that the people that hunt in Europe are reloading their rounds. They have to.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that. I don't know if they are an indicator or they're an anomaly. I think they're an indicator of where we're going with this. And when I watch the national news, I feel very strongly that they're. But that's just my.
You do reloading, right?
I have done a lot of reloading, but I'm lazy nowadays, and ammo prices have come back.
Right.
Within reason, so you can. The other day when I looked at components at the gun show,
mm-hmm.
you can buy. A 9mm round for 22 cents at the gun show, 22 cents a piece, $220 a thousand.
Yeah,
that's you. I mean, my labor sitting there in front of the TV screen at night is not worth that.
Yep. Well, that's a great time, y'all.
Yeah, I want to.
You have something to bring up. You have something else to pose, right? Or was that?
I did. I saw a, and I at some point in time, I'd like to go through the list of animals because we only got to whitetail. I'd like to go through.
Oh, you're right. Duh.
I'd like to go through coyote. I'd like
224 Valkyrie.
I agree with. Well, yes, a 204 is a great caliber as well. I'd like to go through pig. Quick, pig.
300 blackout. Supersonic.
I'm listening to y'all because I've never.
I'd like to go through elk.
Ooh.
300 Win Mag.
And then I can go to African species, but you don't have a whole lot of experience there either.
None of us have any experience in that. What? Right. So what is your for the African? You use the same gun you use for the elk.
375 Ruger is my preferred. A lot of people would say 375 Holland.
And I have 100 rounds of Holland if anybody needs them.
Of Holland.
You bought me a box for my.
No, I bought 100 rounds at an auction of 375 H&H, and I thought that's the gun he had. Is the Ruger.
Oh no.
Ruger. I mean, the difference really is. I mean, the ballistics are great on both of those. The difference is the rifle, right? Like the rifle that you buy, whatever rifle it is that you buy to shoot that 375 H&H is going to be about 3 times minimum up to 100 times the cost of the 375 Ruger. So if you want a gun that you're going to be banging around in the woods and in the swamp and in the mud, and you're going to take out to Colorado, and you're going to take to Africa, 375 Ruger, unless you're just uber wealthy and you don't care, you go buy yourself a Holland and Holland. All right, so changing topics real fast.
All right, come on.
I know we're coming to the end. I saw a headline. I was looking it up a little while ago to find it. I saw a headline earlier that piqued my interest because I've been irritated about this. The SeaWee, the Southeastern Wildlife Expo, is something that has irritated me, and I'm going to get a call about this, I'm sure, has irritated me for a long time. And then I saw this headline, and it reminded me. And here's the headline. Hunting groups quit Colorado Outdoor Partnership. They cite lack of focus on wildlife. Okay, and I read the article, and basically this group of hunting outfitters, hunting collaborators have said, you know, this stuff, all of these things like SeaWee are moving away from the actual hunting and outdoor industries and moving towards sort of an artsy-fartsy component. And for the last 10 years, SeaWee has been doing this. And, you know, I've gone to SeaWee just about every single year from its inception.
Right.
I mean, from, I don't know how old I was.
I drug you down there when you were a kid.
Yeah, I mean, when I was a kid, we used to go to SeaWee and loved it, okay? The last 10 years, they have pushed the hunting industry farther and farther and farther out until now it's relegated to this little teeny section in Brittlebank Park.
Yep.
Where, you know, keep those dirty hunters away from the rest of us.
Under tents.
Yeah, under a tent. Keep those dirty hunters away from us. All the rest of us civilized human beings that like to look at art and listen to opera and fancy music that has, you know, and we're going to show a picture of a dog in the background because that's, you know, that's what SeaWee's all about. We're going to show a picture of a dog and we're going to listen to opera.
And dolphins.
And dolphins. This is what SeaWee has become. This is what all of these big national organizations, you know, quote unquote wildlife organizations have become. And now you've got a divide. Now you've got people, you know, that are heavily involved in SeaWee protesting the actual entries of folks that are, let's just call it what it is, killing animals.
Yep.
Right? I mean, so now you've got a divide. There's a wedge that has been created in SeaWee because of the two different groups. Let's just call them the artsy-fartsy group and the hunting group.
And the hunting.
And I want no part of that anymore, honestly. I mean, it sort of irritates me. I'd love to see a hunting revolution over at SeaWee. But it seems to me like the artsy-fartsies have taken over. And I don't want any part of that.
I stayed in the hotel right there at Brittlebank Park, right across from it, back in 3-4 years ago. And was there for, actually in town for Jason Burton's wedding, who picked the weekend of SeaWee for his wedding in Charleston. That wasn't really good
Poor planning.
No.
But we loved it. We had a great time. We went over. But I said the same thing. I said, you know, other than there was a couple different cool booths that had some nice hunting stuff, everything else was just like, wow. Like, this is
Pretty
weird.
pictures.
Yeah, there was a bunch
So,
of
but Stephen,
tree huggers.
Your attitude is, and sorry for interrupting, your attitude is exactly what's driving that movement away from hunting. They're giving up.
Yeah, maybe so.
I don't know how to, but then isn't that, I mean, I hate to say this, isn't that the United States?
Yeah. Well, could be. I don't know. I would like to think that there's a vast majority of us out there that is supportive of hunting and hunting rights, even if you don't engage in it, but just sort of stay quiet because the other side's so loud.
And it's the same way with fishing. And I'm just saying that because most of us get frustrated with going to all these meetings at South Atlantic Fisheries Management Council, going to have, you know, taking your time to fill out all these things on computers to email them. And then you see it makes no difference in your mind. So you just eventually stop. I'm not going to take the time to do that.
Yeah, you just give up on it.
And then when that happens, they're like, oh, yeah, we're winning. We're winning. Finally, we're winning.
Yeah, it's not imagined. It's real. I had two couples at the house this past Wednesday, and they came to do the gun experience, and they'd never touched one. They couldn't believe an AR-15 was legal, and they couldn't believe we could just stand out on our farm and shoot. without permits and permission and some kind of a organization to make things safe around us. And they had a lot of odd ideas. And they're from New Hampshire. I mean, it's not like they're from
Right.
New York City. And that's the common. That's normal now.
Yep.
I show my guns and help bring people into the shooting lifestyle as much as I can. And the majority of them are completely unaware and have never held a gun. We are becoming sidelined.
Yep.
Yep.
Well, my first and foremost with my kids, and Kinsley's not so much yet because she's all in the dance. But with Russ, I want him to understand everything about them, even before he gets to shooting them. I mean, safety obviously has been first and foremost. Even with play guns, we joke around about play guns, but I tell him, like, laser tag,
Yeah.
Nerf guns. Yeah, you sit there and your instinct is to point it and shoot it at somebody.
Yeah.
He's 5 years old. Who's to say that he goes and grabs one of my guns that I accidentally leave sitting out?
Right. It doesn't have an
And he
orange
picks
tip.
it up. Exactly.
It's the only thing that looks different. It doesn't have an orange tip on it.
Exactly.
No,
And-
look, I've struggled with this too, and I'm I think this is a real conversation that people need to have. I know we're getting sidetracked,
no, we're not.
but everybody as a kid, little boys played cowboys and Indians. Everybody did that. Everybody nowadays is more like laser tag, and I watch these little boys in the yard pointing these guns at each other and pulling the trigger, and I'm thinking, God, what if they go and grab, what if they grab a gun, not at my house, because
right.
mine are going to be
Yours are locked up.
in here, but somebody else's, and they go playing laser tag with it. And so you got to have that conversation.
I'm leaving here, honestly, and going to Tractor Supply, just so y'all know, to go look at them. I've got
Look
a
at
bunch
what?
of,
Look at
Okay,
what?
what?
gun safe.
Oh, gun
Okay,
safes.
safes. Okay.
I got a lot of mileage on my little Tractor Supply thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go over and look at some. I saw a couple prices that were in my price range over there.
Good.
But now that with the recent purchases and with what I've had, I have them stuck in closets. I have them stuck in places. I have handguns in different spaces where Kim and I both know they are. But now that Russ is getting into looking through everything, and of course I don't ever keep any. The ammo is never connected. And now with the new revolver that I showed you, that with no safety on it, pretty much, things are. So anyway, I'm going to go look at down there. I'm going down there as soon as we get done.
All right, I'm going to risk my reputation here. I'm going to call my son in here, and I'm going to get him to answer a question. Colt, okay? All right, y'all talk. Give me just a second. I'm going to call him.
All right, go get him.
So we spent the weekend with them, with the kids, and
Yeah, what a great purchase. He was so excited about his new sword. Yeah, hey,
don't talk
you
about
know what his
I told the parents. I told these parents that was a bad decision on my part. I got tied up in the granddaddy stuff, man, and the next thing I knew, I was making bad decisions. But boy, I tell you what, I'm so proud of the maturity level that I'm seeing every time he touches a gun. And he had paintball, he had real guns, paintball, and airsoft
right.
this weekend in his hands, and every time he touches a gun, I say trigger finger, and he lays it out beside it, and I'm talking about on all three platforms.
Right.
And every time that he starts swinging that muzzle around, I'm like muzzle, 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 and I say that. I bet on Saturday I said that word 300 times, and you can see it. It's registering, and he's young.
Yeah.
And by the time he's 12, he'll have it.
Well, his explanation about that sword was,
Oh no.
he smiled and he looked at me. He said, "It can cause some damage."
Oh no! Oh no! Oh my God! We looked at the dull ninja swords, and we looked at all that stuff.
There he comes.
Hello, buddy.
Hello, Mr. Tripp.
All right, I'm putting my reputation on the line here.
Oh, his granddad just been bragging about him while you were gone. So
Putting my reputation on the line here. I've got my 6-year-old son, Tripp, here. So come here. Come here.
gotta get close to the microphone over there, buddy.
No, I didn't tell you the answer to this question. I want to ask you a question. I want you to answer it, okay? What's the first thing you do when you pick up a gun?
Make sure it's not loaded.
All right, did I tell you the answer to that outside or when I went to go get you?
No.
Okay. That's his answer, right?
That's awesome.
That's the right answer, even when you're playing with toy guns.
That's right.
right? I mean, that's the conversation you got to have with every kid. Even when you go to pick up a toy gun and play laser tag or Cowboys and Indians, what do you do?
Make sure it's not loaded.
Yeah.
Good job, buddy.
That's right.
What do you do with your trigger finger?
You pull the trigger.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Good job, buddy.
All right.
Come
We'll,
here.
we'll work on that part.
We'll work on that part.
You did good.
You did good, man.
Thank you, buddy.
You did good. Now go get that machete and let's go chop down some trees.
Gosh,
Gosh. You should have seen.
Steven pulled that thing out of the sheath and just rolled his eyes, put it back.
You
Didn't
should have
say a word.
seen. You should have seen his other granddad when he saw it last night. He came over here and what is that? Oh my God!
Well,
Yeah, well,
I think you got to have a balance, right? You got.
Oh boy,
You got to have a balance.
you do have to have a balance. Well, I'll tell you what, guys, it's been great. Have a great trip out to Colorado. Thanks for taking the time to come in
wonderful.
and sit with us. And I'm super excited to get my hands on and see your final product when we get done with that.
Save some time next weekend.
That AR, I will. And let's see, anything big for you this week? What you got? So today's President's Day. Obviously, no work at the State House. Obviously, Mondays.
I've actually done 2 interviews already this morning.
Have you really?
So there is. I did 2 before.
Well, you're always working, but
So I have done a little work. I've got another lady from WLTX asking for an interview now on my Yankee tax bill.
I love it.
She's texting
Yes.
me as we speak. So yeah, I mean, I've got some things to do. I'm going over to the farm. We're going to be talking with an environmental consultant on the impoundment, and got our metal building's going up here sometime in the next 6 weeks or so. So we're doing a lot of work on the farm, and
I met Mr. Welch. Is that his name? Just doing the wells?
the well guy, yeah,
Yeah.
the well guy.
Really nice guy.
He went and looked at well stuff last week for us.
Yep.
So yeah, we're moving along. Everything's going well.
Well, good. Well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to head down the road, and y'all need to make sure you go check out all of our other brands. Remember, TrilogyOutdoorsMedia.com will point you in all your directions. Whether you want Trilogy Outdoors Magazine, go check those out. Got some great articles in there this month. Southern Anglers Radio Show every Saturday morning on the Gator 107.9, and, of course, Trilogy Outdoors Podcast right here on all the platforms. Click like, subscribe, and remember, download. We need you to download. But we'll get this one up and going, and next week we'll have another great topic and be back here talking pin, spur, and feathers on Trilogy Outdoors Podcast.
Trilogy Outdoors Podcast is a product of Trilogy Outdoors Media. All views and opinions of our hosts and guests are not necessarily those of our sponsors. Trilogy Outdoors is produced and edited by Trilogy Outdoors Media. Be sure to follow us on all the podcast platforms as well as our social media pages on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And also, don't forget our other brands, Southern English Radio Show and Walk 'em All Outdoor Magazine. To find more information, visit TrilogyOutdoorsMedia.com. And remember, if it's anything dealing with fins, fur, and feathers, you're going to find it right here on Trilogy Outdoors.